My parents argued all the time. Most nights my dad would be storming out of the house, tires screeching. Mom would be locking herself in her room, crying, wouldn't come out for hours. I'd sit by the door and I would just sit there and try to calm her down. And honestly, I loved being the person that would make her smile. I loved being the person that helped make her pain go away. And she'd come out, she'd give me a hug, and that was like the first taste of being a counselor. I loved doing it. I was pretty good at doing it too. I was pretty good at handling mom's sadness, handling my dad's anger, but then there were my own emotions. Those I put last. I locked them away. I showed nobody what I was dealing with. My parents, they were young, so they couldn't really deal with their own feelings yet, and they couldn't help me deal with mine. So I didn't even ask. I went to school just like everybody else, and I learned math, social studies, science, stuff like that, but nobody taught me how to be happy. Nobody taught me how to manage my mind, manage my emotions. I suppressed it. I did everything I could not to think about the way that I was feeling. I pushed it down and I tried to ignore it. And I didn't do that because it's what I wanted to do. Honestly, I did that because it was all I knew. It was how I was raised. See, with young parents, my grandparents were real. They were the real heroes. They were the ones that would step in when my young parents couldn't get it done. And they came from tough backgrounds. They grew up poor. They grew up relying on food stamps. They worked really, really hard for every little thing that they had. And both of them had very traumatic childhoods. They carried silent scars from their childhoods that they never really talked about. Vulnerability was a weakness to my grandparents. For example, my granddad battled health issues since the time he was born, but with no money or resources, he didn't get proper care and he lived his whole life in pain. My grandmother, she lost her mother when she was 8 years old. And they dealt with their hardships and their heartache the same way, and that's kind of how they trauma bonded together. They both pushed it down. They never let it show. They were the epitome of hard workers. They worked from sun up to sun down. I grew up on those phrases that I'm pretty sure a lot of you grew up on, like, you get what you get and you don't throw a fit. Life isn't fair. We'll sleep when we're dead. They firmly believed that nothing in life was handed to you at all, and you had to work really, really hard for everything. And I will admit, the mindset made them successful, but it also threatened their health, and it almost sent them both to early graves. My grandmother, for example, she pushed her emotions down so far that shockingly in her 40s, she started to have weird health problems, autoimmune disease, liver failure. There was no obvious reason for her health problems. There was like no family history. Doctors didn't know what was going on. She didn't drink. She didn't take any pills, but her eyes started to turn yellow. And that's a symptom of advanced liver failure. And so she finally goes to the doctor after ignoring this for over a year. She sees a doctor and the doctor can't even believe that she's walking. She was so far advanced in her liver failure that he said that most people are bedridden at that point. But for my grandma, that was just, it was normal to feel this way. She was working day in and day out. She's cleaning houses. She's cleaning offices. She had all these odd jobs. She's starting businesses. She lived by the saying that somebody's got to do it, and that somebody was always her. So for 30 years, she'd been putting everybody else first, not sparing a thought for herself. And quite literally, it was killing her. And I wanted to be like my heroes. So I learned to do the same thing.